some new reporting on how large the extraordinary rendition program was under the Bush administration. The Open Society Foundation has done some great work here in finding out that 54 different governments were involved. Some would just allow us to use airspace, others would help us torture detainees that we had. So it was a whole range, okay? And it involved 136 prisoners that we basically kidnapped. That's the real word for extraordinary rendition. And then we tortured, and that we would send them to places like Egypt, Libya, and Syria to get tortured. Now think about that for a second. In the Bush administration, we were sending people to Muammar Gaddafi so that he could torture them on our behalf. How lovely. But that's okay, because Obama put an end to it. The one thing Obama's not doing is torture. He would never do that. Now, we go back and explain the Bush years. Extraordinary renditions was also a factor in one of the greatest intelligence blunders of the Bush years. Ibn al-Sheikh al-Libi, a Libyan national and top al-Qaeda operative who was detained in Pakistan in late 2001, was later sent by the U.S. to Egypt. There, under the threat of torture, he alleged that Saddam Hussein had trained al-Qaeda in biological and chemical warfare. He later withdrew the claim, but not before the U.S. invaded Iraq, in part based on his faulty testimony. Now, the only thing wrong with that reporting from the Huffington Post is that that was not a blunder. That was the whole point. You know, people are always like, man, why did Cheney and Bush want to do that torture so bad when obviously the torture reveals information that's not reliable? Bingo. Cheney didn't want information that was reliable. He wanted to scare the living hell out of al-Libi, which they did mock executions of. They said they were going to bury him alive. And then he said, okay, fine, what do you want to hear? I've told you everything that I could imagine making up. Now, okay, all right, Saddam Hussein and al-Qaeda. They're like, yes, that's what we wanted to hear. Okay, bring him up, he's fine. Don't execute him or torture him anymore. We got exactly what we wanted. We bring that evidence to Congress, to the United Nations, and say, oh my God, al-Libi said Saddam and al-Qaeda are working together. It was never true, of course, and later was proven to be false. But the extraordinary rendition program did exactly what it was supposed to do, produce false evidence. Now, the Bush administration people used to make excuses for it. They would say, as Huffington Post explains, although Bush administration officials said they never intentionally sent terrorism suspects abroad in order to be tortured, the countries where the prisoners seemed to end up, Egypt, Libya, and Syria, among others, were known to utilize coercive interrogation techniques. But don't worry, as I told you, Obama came in, first order was stopping torture and closing down those secret prisons that CIA was using. Now, so obviously he also ended the extraordinary rendition program, right? Nope. Huffington Post explains, but Obama did not fully end the practice of rendition, which permits the U.S. to circumvent any due process obligations for terrorism suspects. Instead, the administration said it was relying on the less certain diplomatic assurances of host countries that they would not torture suspects sent to them for pre-trial detention. Well, that would be the same exact thing as the Bush administration. They told us, oh, no, we have received diplomatic assurances from Muammar Gaddafi and Hosni Mubarak and Bashar al-Assad that they will not torture these people that we have sent them. Oh, golly gee, did they violate that diplomatic assurance? Now, the same exact excuse being used, of course, by the Obama administration. And at least the OSF report, the people who put together the report initially, recognizes this obvious fact. They say in the report, quote, this decision was tantamount to continuing the program. Extraordinary renditions under President Obama, not so extraordinary. As with almost every other violation of the Constitution and civil liberties by the Bush administration, President Obama has basically said, I can do you one better.